Welcome to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
Back again on a Thursday, May the 4th Thursday, which I'm told, not that I partake in this, but I am told by the geeks out there that today is May the 4th day. So, yes, I called all you Star fan Wars geeks, fans, whatever. Fans, I called you geeks. I like Star Wars too. I just don't celebrate it every May the 4th. So yesterday we celebrated, Lumpy Rug Day. I'm probably more into that than I am May the 4th be with you. Although I will say around these parts we're into it. Coming up tonight, right here on the Better Sports Network, 6 o'clock, we have a special edition of Pub Trivia Bettercast with a Star Wars theme. So if you are one of those geeks who celebrates and parties on May the 4th be with you, tonight's your night on the Bettercast. That's at 6 o'clock. I'm going to save my partying for tomorrow on a Cinco de Mayo. That's just how I'm going to do it. You can choose how you'd like to do it. Great to have you with us today. We are the spot where we get you up to date on what happened last night, kind of tell you what matters from what occurred last night. Take a look ahead to tonight, also today. And, of course, we do a pack rip at the end. Today, we continue what's kind of been a Donruss-themed week. What is this, day 4 of the week? I think this will be our third different Donruss pack. We've done 88 and 90. So we got to do 1989. And shall I give you a cellophane edition of 1989 Donruss Baseball? Now I can go with 2. Now this used to be a 3-pack. I think I opened the 3rd pack maybe 2-3 weeks ago. So I have 2 options here. This was the beauty of cellophanes back in the day. You'd see these suckers, Kmart would have them hanging from the rack. There'd be 3 packages. And literally you would race to the store and you'd see, 40 of these things hanging. And you go through all of them and you just see, okay, top and bottom cards. Now, Donruss got smart. Eventually, they put the puzzle piece in the back so you didn't know which card was on the back. But on the front, you could still see who the player was. As you can see here, Frank Viola of the Minnesota Twins, who, as goofy as the guy looks, he was a good pitcher. Just a goofy-looking good pitcher. But you go through these and you look for that top card. Oh, who is it? And lo and behold, in 1989, with this particular set, if you found King Griffey Jr., you weren't as rich as your upper deck King Griffey Jr. owners were, but you were feeling pretty good. Needless to say, I do not have a King Griffey. I got Frank Viola. I also have, I don't even know who this is, Joe Price. I think that's what that says, Joe Price. So we'll probably give Joe Price some love. I'll look him up during a break and see who in the heck Joe Price is, because I don't know who Joe Price is off the top of my head. That pack rip is coming your way a bit later here on this edition of the 5-Pack. We begin with our 5 things that matter on this Thursday, May the 4th. And I noted this yesterday near the end of the show that I, Kyle Elfrink, was headed out to Busch Stadium on Wednesday night. I was going to be taking in the Shohei Ohtani love affair. And it is a love affair. Like last night, I walk into the stadium and it's not packed, but you tell me this. Outside of maybe Dodger Stadium, seriously, that's the only, outside of Dodger Stadium, where they always get, whether the people show up or not, they always have 48 to 50,000 tickets sold. Outside of that individual ballpark, I would argue there is no other stadium in Major League Baseball that on a Wednesday night, with the home team sitting with a 10-20 record, could get 42,000 plus fans into the stands. Now don't say Fenway. They don't even seat 40K. Neither does Wrigley. Yankee Stadium occasionally gets into the 40s, but they're actually more in the 30s. Dirty secret, they don't come out. Unless it's Boston or a big game. But the people were out last night, and admittedly, it's because of Shohei Ohtani. I was amped. for the Shohei Ohtani experience. Well, lo and behold, it lived up to it. It was great. I got to watch Shohei pitch. I got to watch Shohei hit. Now, the game didn't end up the way you want it to end up as a Cardinals backer, but we still got to see greatness. For instance, we got to see a lot of greatness on the mound from Shohei Ohtani last night.
Swing and a miss. But he chases that for strike three. It was a
Matt Moore, yeah, there you go with that swing and miss.
3-2 pitch. It's the fastball and it's in there. There's a swing and a miss for strike three.
Tonight.
Swing and a miss. Upar strikes out.
That litter usage. That's
0-2. And Burleson strikes out. That's number 9. Order. And now Paul.
That was not a bunch of replays, by the way, of Shohei Ohtani. Oh, man. That was 5 innings of pitching. He only went 5 innings last night. The Cardinals struck out 13 times against Shohei Ohtani. Wow. And as you saw, most of those pitches, 98 to 100. They all seem like replays, right? Bally Sports out of Southern California providing that footage. So that was Ohtani on the hill, dominating. By the way, with that 13th strikeout last night, Shohei Ohtani is now the second player in baseball history to have 500 strikeouts and 100 home runs. You can probably guess who the other individual is. Now, what about Mike Trout? You know, it was funny. Last night I'm sitting in the stands and it was like, I think it was Boy Scout / Girl Scout night at the ballpark. It was like nurses night at the ballpark. That probably helped the attendance as well. I told my father, who was with me at the game, there is no better place to choke on a hot dog than right now at Busch Stadium. You've got nurses everywhere and you've got Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. And behind me, there was a set of, I think they were Girl Scouts. And one of them turned to their father and Ohtani was pitching. And they asked, probably, I don't know, 7, 8 years old. They asked their father, is this guy good? And he goes, yeah, he's a superstar. He's really good. And the young daughter then asked, I thought you said Mike Trout was their best player, Dad. And Dad was in a pickle then. Because who is the best? Most people would say Ohtani. Most baseball people. But Mike Trout's been doing it for 7, 8 years. Pretty well considered the best hitting player in baseball. But Ohtani, I guess, is better. So she caught Dad in a bit of a pickle. Now, it wasn't all about Ohtani last night. Mike Trout had his moment. For instance, let's take you to the top of the 9th inning. Giovanni Gallegos on the hill. And this is Mike Trout facing off against the right-hander.
Now Trout hits one deep to left. This one might go back near the wall. O'Neal, and it's gone. Mike Trout has given the Angels the lead. 2 home runs in the top of the 9th, and the Angels have stormed back to take a 5-4 lead in St. Louis.
how great does Mike Trout feel on that swing? Be able to hit that one out here in the 9th inning, the go-ahead run, home run for the GOAT.
Mike Trout may have felt great with that swing. You might have heard in the background there if you listen closely. Did you hear some boos? I will tell you this, as somebody who's been to probably hundreds of Cardinal games by this point, you don't hear boos very often. I got home and I was watching the local sports broadcast. You know, they're doing the local news. They have the 5 minutes for sports at the end. And a guy who has called many a St. Louis sports moment, guy by the name of Frank Cusimano. He noted that he had never heard boos like that at Busch Stadium. Mike Trout with the big home run there. Angels eventually win. Today they'll look for the sweep, 115. You can see some photos here. This is my locale at the stadium. Now, I only took these photos because of you, the ever faithful 5-pack listener. Figured you might want to see those Shohei Ohtani. So I've got proof that I was there. By the way, those are $5 seats. That's maybe another reason to get put. Although I sold my, remember I told you I was putting my tickets up for sale. I sold one ticket. I think it was $25. Second ticket went for $20. So, and honestly, we still had an empty seat next to us. I don't know what happened to that person that paid $25 for a ticket. Who knows? But it was fun times at the ballpark. My first game of the year. It mattered to me. And Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, still great. Still worth seeing. If they're coming to a ballpark near you, do check them out. Let's move to item number 2 on what matters. Well, you might recall, 2 weeks ago, spent a little time talking about the LA Dodgers. And really, the Dodgers weren't playing very good baseball. You know, Arizona was ahead of them. San Diego wasn't playing good either. Well, things have changed now for the LA Dodgers. I would tell everybody in the NL West, you had your very, very short window of opportunity to gain or to get ahead of the LA Dodgers. That opportunity might now be closed. Yesterday, the Dodgers finished off a 6-game homestand by winning against the Phillies. They won all 6 games at home. Combined score, this is against Philadelphia and St. Louis, combined score 50-17. Here are the last 4 of those 50 runs that they scored on the homestand.
Muncy swings at the first pitch, unloads down the line, over a grand slam. Only needed one. He'll take them all. The finishing touches, the chef's kiss on a perfect homestand.
Max Muncy, a walk-off grand slam, coming off Craig Kimbrell. The Phillies had a rough 3 days in L.A. Dodgers scored double-digit runs in all 3 games. They obviously won all 3 games, and again, they've won 6 in a row. Max Muncy hitting a ton of home runs. He's not doing much else. It's like home run or bust for Max Muncy this year, but you'll take it. I mentioned the Dodgers are kind of getting into their groove, and you can see it in the batting average. Just the last 7 days, which for the most part encapsulates, the 6-game run, the 6 games at Dodger Stadium. Mookie Betts is hitting 400. Freddie Freeman is hitting 400. Chris Taylor's hitting 353. David Peralta's 308. James Outman, the rookie's 300. Miguel Vargas is 292. Vargas has 9 RBIs in the last 7 days. Mookie Betts has 8 RBIs. They're hot. They're looking good. They're looking like LA. 19-13 is the record. This weekend, they're off today, but this weekend they're off to San Diego. In fact, Padres and Dodgers, 6 of the next 9 games between those 2 NL West combatants. Padres are currently 2 games back. San Diego always gets revved up for these series with LA. At least in the regular season, they have not made a dent on the armor of the LA Dodgers. They usually scuffle. They usually fall flat. Now, last year in the playoffs, they somehow figured out the Dodgers, but in the regular season, they have had all sorts of troubles going up against LA. We'll see how it goes this weekend. Again, no game today. 3 games set in San Diego, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, taking on the Padres. And then next week, they'll also take on the Padres. So we'll see if the Padres or anybody else can slow down the Dodgers and the groove that they are on. Let us move to item number 3. What matters on this May the 4th? Max Scherzer matters. Remember last time we saw Max Scherzer was actually in LA and he had silly putty all over him and then he got suspended? Well, Max Scherzer finally got back on the hill yesterday in Detroit. Let's just say that Max Scherzer didn't look all that good against a fairly weak hitting Tigers lineup.
Haas with a drive, left field. Back goes Canna. Turn, gone! 2 homers in 1 day. 3-0 Tigers. Veerling puts a jolt into one. Deep left center field. That's got carry. Gone! 2-run blast for Matt Veerling. The Tigers are bowling up here today.
Bally Sports Detroit with the footage there. Matt Verling and Eric Haas. You don't want to be giving up home runs to those guys. Max Scherzer has given up 6 home runs in 22 2/3 innings this year. Yesterday was 3 1/3 innings, 8 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, 2 homers. Mets got swept, by the way, in a doubleheader against Detroit. Worth noting, although it's one game, so worth following, maybe noting it now and then following it for the next start. Max Scherzer's velocity down about 1.5 miles. Spin rate down about 175 RPMs. Just worth noting. Now, if you follow pitchers, great ones, average ones, bad ones, there will be fluctuations from game to game. It really starts to matter when you see like a 5-game run of, oh my gosh, this guy's lost his usual standards. So yesterday it was a crappy day in Detroit. Obviously, Scherzer hadn't thrown in like 2 weeks. But the fastball was down, the RPM down. So worth following there. For the season, though, and this is obviously a bigger spread of games. For the season, we're talking about a guy with a 5.56 ERA, a 1.41 whip. He is under 8 Ks per 9. K to walk ratio is 2-1. That's not good. That's not Max Scherzer level. Max Scherzer the last 2 years has been 7-1. He's 2-1 this year. You do have to wonder, because the performances, there hasn't even really been a good performance by Max Scherzer in his first 5 starts. There's probably been one that's average. The other 4 have kind of stunk. You know, one of those 4 was getting tossed in Dodger Stadium when he was actually pitching well, but maybe there was a reason for that. You got to be at least a little concerned with Max Scherzer. And, you know, it's always difficult to say, oh, the greats are no longer great. And I'm not going to say that. But the start has not been good for Max Scherzer. For a variety of reasons. You know, he was a guy in spring training who wasn't really digging the pitch clock. You know, he had the moment in LA. He had the suspension. The results have not been good. Just hasn't been good. Maybe at his age, it takes a little while to get things going. And he'll probably still have Max Scherzer efforts. The thing that's alarming to me is the strikeouts being way down. Because they are way down by about 20% right now. So that is significant with Max Scherzer. That is something that he needs to get back on the horse and start racking those Ks up. His next 2 starts are scheduled to be at Cincinnati and at Washington. Now, Cincinnati's a tough place to pitch, especially when you've got home run issues. But I got to say, Max Scherzer against the Reds, Max Scherzer against the Nationals, now is the time to get right in these next 2 starts. He got one good start, really, if I give him credit for good. He's got one good start in 5 weeks this year. Not very good. More on the Mets, by the way, coming up. They've got at least some reinforcements arriving for Max Scherzer. Let's go to the world of hockey for item number 4 on what matters today in the 5-pack. We go to Las Vegas where, hey, I think Vegas is considered a desert, right? Yeah, there's sand everywhere. It's a desert. You wouldn't know it from all the electricity and air conditioning and water that the city sucks up each and every day. But it is a desert. Things are usually dry in the desert. They were not Draisaitl last night in Las Vegas.
Draisaitl to Bouchard from the blue line. Bouchard to McDavid to Draisaitl. He shoots and scores! The way he goes around the world, set things up, and then attack from high to low once again. It's speed coming down yet. Almost intercepted by Stone. Taking a look near the net and banking it off. Brossois is Leon Draisaitl. It's McDavid, gets almost picked off by Stone. A good effort to stay in the battle once again. We talked about 50-50 pucks coming up with them, and you can see Draisaitl. McDavid now from the corner. Takes a look, Bouchard, Bouch bomb! Brossois the save, rebound! It's a hat trick for Leon Draisaitl! Long, hard look here at their screens beside me as Bruce Cassidy looking down. They haven't signaled anything yet.
Kolasar carries. Kolasar a toe drag. Save made by Skinner. And the rebound cleaned up by Ekholm. A long outlet to McDavid. Hyman cutting to the net. The trailer Draisaitl shoots. Scores! Make it 4! Leon Draisaitl off the feed from McDavid.
If you were watching those highlights, courtesy of the Sports Network in Canada, you probably just fell in love. Like that second goal there, That's when you're at another level. When you're in the NHL in a playoff game and you're sitting there and you're able to bank it in off the back of the goalkeeper, the goaltender. Are you kidding me? Seriously? That's when you're playing at a different level. If you just watch those highlights and didn't pay attention to the score ticker at the top of the screen, you might have thought Edmonton rolled last night. They did not. They lost game one. Vegas actually won that game 6-4. That makes 2 straight nights where in the NHL playoffs, a guy has scored 4 goals and his team lost. It was Leon Draisaitl last night. The night before, it was Joe Pavelski of the Dallas Stars. He had 4 goals. They lost. So maybe individual greatness is not all it's cracked up to be. I don't know. Draisaitl has been pretty damn great, by the way. 11 goals in 7 playoff games this year. You might say, well, is that rare? Yeah, it's rare. Over 4 decades since anybody scored 10 goals in the first 7 games. He has 11. You got to go back to 1981 for the last NHL player to have at least 10 goals. Again, Draisaitl 11, at least 10 in the first 7. Now think to yourself, in the 80s, we had Wayne Gretzky, we had Mario Lemieux, we had Jaromir Jagr in the 90s. We had, Sidney Crosby, Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Steven Stamkos, Alex Ovechkin. Hell, Connor McDavid, Mark Messier, Yari Curry. All these dudes, none of them did what we're seeing right now from Leon Draisaitl. And he is a second banana to Connor McDavid, but he's a really nice banana. Don't know if I've ever said that before in my life. He's a really nice banana, but Leon Draisaitl is a really nice second banana. Game 2 between the Oilers and the Golden Knights is going to be Saturday night. 7 o'clock, TNT will have it. Right now, the series odds have flip-flopped. Edmonton was the favorite coming into the series. They are now the underdog. Plus 120 for the Oilers. You can get the Golden Knights right now at minus 140. Well, one playoff moment deserves another playoff moment. Let's get to our 5th thing that matters today here on the 5-pack. And it's in Boston, where the Celtics did what they had to do. The Celtics had to get a Game 2 victory, and they did it really, really easily. I mean, it was simple. Even with Joel Embiid back for the Philadelphia 76ers, it did not matter. Even the fact that Jason Tatum did nothing in this game, well, it did not matter because the other Celtics were hitting bombs from the outside.
Shake his hand. MVP Horford. Inside Brown. Brown was going to make sure he didn't get another one blocked by Embiid. Brown with the deceptive move, but Harris stuck with him. Brogdon's got the hot hand. Gets it out. Williams, 3. Grant Williams puts one down. Everything is falling down from 3. 14 of 34 for Boston. Trying to chisel his way in. Harden had the ball knocked away. Brogdon over Niang. Another 3. Another hit.
Easy for Boston last night. They won by 34 points. I was looking at the plus minus for Embiid and Harden today. Embiid was minus 23 when on the court. James Harden was minus 21. Jaylen Brown, Malcolm Brogdon, those two Celtics combining for 48 points. I don't know about you, but when you see the Celtics on that last highlight there, they force a turnover, they come down in transition. Growing up, it's like, take it to the hoop. Get your layup. Take advantage of the numbers. It's been this way for like 15, 20 years, but for some reason, I'm still not used to the fact that no. Nowadays, it's pull up and jack up a 3. Pull up from 24 feet. Take that 3-pointer. Boston out of control from 3 last night. They hit 20 of them. They hit 40% of their 3-pointers. They had 14 more 3-pointers than did the Philadelphia 76ers. And you might remember game 1, Philadelphia pulled off that upset without Joel Embiid, like Harden went off, and the Philadelphia defense was quite strong. In that game 1, the 3-pointers were in favor of Philly. Philly actually won the 3-point contest 17-10. So last night, total 180, 20-6 was the 3-point success rate. So it was all Boston last night. So the series will now head to Philadelphia Friday night, 7:30 on ESPN. Boston for that game 3, by the way, even though they're the road team, favored by 1.5. As for the series, Boston minus 230 and Philly is at plus 190. Big win, must win for the Boston Celtics. Now, we are not done with must wins. Coming up in 5 things that will matter for your Thursday night, talk about a couple of other teams that maybe are facing must win situations. Before that, though, let's check in with Corey Parsons and get another executive decision.
Hey, listen up, everybody. Nobody has a softer spot in their heart for Antonio Brown than I do. But it's time to tell the truth. People have to stop doing business with Antonio Brown. The latest saga in the former pro football great is that his Arena League football team, the Albany Empire, players have not been paid since April 21st. Now, Brown is not on this team alone, but it just so happens that when Mike Quarter sold his portion of the team to Brown, that's when the payments stopped happening. That's when players got locked out of hotels. That's when the head coach quit. And that's when players were suspended. How come every time Antonio Brown is involved with something, some kind of wild drama takes place? Listen, I know we love the talent. Listen, I know that he needs some help. But the bottom line of the matter is this. People need to stop doing business with Antonio Brown so he can get himself better. You got your thoughts and opinions on it? Check out the comments below for a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alarm.
Welcome back to the 5-Pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
And yes, I am your father, at least in the 5-Pack. I don't think anybody else hosts this, do they? I think I'm the only one, so I get to be the father of the 5-Pack. Welcome you back in. May the 4th be with you, as I'm contractually obligated to remind you. It is May 4th. Choose your celebration wisely. You can celebrate today on a Thursday, or you can celebrate tomorrow on a Friday, Cinco de Mayo. Your choice. There's a local spot here in town, by the way, to kind of merge the Star Wars and Cinco de Mayo together. They're opening tomorrow. Cantina. It's like a local cantina, which you'll remember from, what was it? Empire Strikes Back, the cantina scene. Well, we got our own cantina firing up on May 5th, so I'll wait for that celebration. Later tonight, for those who are looking for fantasy football, we got you covered. Of course, draft was a week ago. All the excitement of that. Coming up tonight at 7 o'clock, high-stakes fantasy football with our friend Eric Balkman of the FPPC. He's going to get rolling with some more thoughts post-draft. And then Dynasty Nerds at 9 o'clock tonight. You can catch all this on the Better Sports app, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all those spots. But if you're looking for football, we got you covered later tonight right here on BSN. If you are looking for other things to be excited about tonight, well, you're at the 5-Pack. Let's tell you about 5 things that will matter for this Thursday night. And we do begin in the world of baseball. And it's not something tonight that's going to matter. It's something today that's going to matter. In fact, coming up in about 40 minutes from now, the New York Mets will be trying to salvage their series in Detroit. Wonder what Steve Cohen and his billions and billions and billions of dollars thinks about the idea of the Mets having to salvage a series in Detroit. Probably not the way he drew it up. He probably also didn't want to draw it up this way. Justin Verlander is making his Mets debut on May 4th. They were hoping that Justin Verlander would make his Mets debut on like March 30th. So we're about 5 weeks late on this, but it's finally going to happen. Signed in the offseason, 2 years, $87 million. Finally, Justin Verlander is set to be on the mound, taking on his old team, the Detroit Tigers. He met with the media yesterday in the Motor City and talked about getting set for start number 1 with the New York Mets.
Rehab start, so it wasn't like I was in midseason form, but first box is to check is that you're healthy, and was able to do that. And now hopefully everything starts to click and dial in as I get some starts under my belt. I only wanted to make one rehab start, man, and so at this level, I can't come up here and expect to only throw 70 pitches. That's not fair for the team. It's not fair for the bullpen. you have one bad inning and all of a sudden you're only throwing 3 or 4 innings and everybody else has to pick up the pieces. So I wasn't going to do that, but obviously wanted to get back here as soon as possible, but also safely. So in my mind, I thought it was a fairly aggressive, but fair in a good way. I know that it's a little bit of a jump, but I thought it was very doable, especially since I was able to keep throwing since the end of spring training. I always had that in the back of my mind that I didn't have to shut it down, so the build-up could go a little faster.
SNY there with the pregame footage from Justin Verlander yesterday. 1:10 today. He'll be up against Eduardo Rodriguez, vet against vet. I think MLB Network television, by the way, will have the broadcast at 1:10. If you're looking for odds on Verlander, I noticed over at DraftKings this morning, you cannot find outs odds on Justin Verlander, 15.5, 14.5. They're not available. You can find strikeout odds. 5.5 is the over-under today. Over is -165. The under is +125. I'd be feeling pretty good about the over there. Obviously, that's where all the money is. I mentioned the outs. That prop is not offered. To get the win, and this one may surprise you. Remember, taking on Detroit, Justin Verlander, you think of him as a workhorse, but it is the first game back. The win is actually +140. The no, not to get the win, is -185. Kind of feel good about the yes there with Verlander. And I'll tell you why. I think he's going to be able to go the 5 innings that he needs to qualify. I mean, he should be fine for 85, 90 pitches. I think he's good there. Secondarily, they had a doubleheader yesterday. They needed to go through their bullpen yesterday. They actually need at least 5 innings from Justin Verlander today. So the fact that I can get Verlander at +140 against Detroit, I'll take it. No sure thing. First start with a new team, first start of the season. I'm guessing the weather is typical crappy Detroit weather today. Probably chilly. But I'll take the +140 on Verlander. Again, 110 for that first pitch. And MLB Network Television will have it. Let's move to item number 2, staying in the world of baseball. Later today, the Brewers will wrap up a series at Coors Field. I was watching the Brewers the end of their game, actually listening to it last night. They fell to the Rockies 7-1. Okay, 1 game, who cares? The night before, they scored, I think, 2 runs, and they lost to the Rockies. So it got me thinking, Milwaukee, what is it? You're supposed to score more than 3 runs in 18 innings at Coors Field. So I started looking this up. Milwaukee appears to be a team that, for whatever reason, cannot figure out Coors Field like everybody else can, but Milwaukee can. Check this out. And this goes back to the start of 2019, which over that span, Milwaukee's been a pretty good team, constantly competing for the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Rockies have been mostly junk. For at least 3 of those 4 junk, and they're junk again this year. But over the last 14 games that Milwaukee has played at Coors Field, Milwaukee has a 4-10 record, and remember, they're the good team during this stretch, and Colorado's the lousy team. But 4-10 is the record. But here's the alarming thing. In those 14 games, all at Coors Field, the offensive heaven that is Denver, Colorado, the Milwaukee Brewers have scored a grand total of 65 runs in 14 games. That is 4.6 per game. It's not good. This is Coors Field. You can get away with 4.6 in Milwaukee or a lot of other places. You can't in Coors Field. Give me a break. 4-10. Now, today you got Wade Miley going up against Connor Siebold. Now, on the surface, that screams runs, right? The over-under for today is 12. I'll tell you this, the over-under yesterday was 12, and they scored 8. The over-under on Tuesday was 11, and they scored 5. Be careful. Be careful. Milwaukee can't score at Coors Field. Now, they do have, in that 14-game run, they got a couple occasions where they scored 7 runs or 8 runs. There's a lot of 1s. There's a lot of 3s there. Low-scoring Milwaukee. We'll see. I know everybody says a Connor Siebold. That's the over. DFS lineup, punch me up some Brewers. I get it. But they've sucked the last 2 nights at Coors. We'll see how they do tonight. We'll see. Milwaukee is favored to win pretty prohibitively. -150. They are the favorite there. Colorado's at +130. Just one of those weird statistical anomalies, I think. The fact that Milwaukee is 4-10 and they can't score at Coors Field. We'll see. I thought beer guys would love going to Coors Field, but I guess not. Let's go to item number 3. We'll go to the NBA playoffs tonight. It is the eagerly anticipated Game 2 between the Lakers and the Warriors. Of course, LA opened the series a couple of nights ago with a huge win, courtesy of Anthony Davis. He was massive, and we talked about this on yesterday's show. When you look at Game 1 between the Lakers and the Warriors, it was crazy to see all of the free throws that the LA Lakers got to take. Meanwhile, you had Golden State taking no free throws. You had Golden State jacking up threes. And I said, that's not a one-game flash. That's how it's going to be. Darvin Ham is the head coach of the Lakers, and he talked about this after the win on Tuesday night. Kind of the idea that LA goes into these games, especially when they're on the road at Golden State like they are tonight, where you say, okay, you're going to have moments where the Warriors strike and where they get hot and they're hitting from behind the arc. The key for the Lakers is you still have to maintain what you are offensively. What he means by that, and we'll hear from him in a second, but what he means is a lot of times a team hits a 3, crowd gets revved up, and you want to go down and hit a 3. You want to match 3 for 3. And you'll see it in the NBA a lot. You know, we saw it last night, I think, with Boston and Philadelphia. It was this, oh, you hit a 3, we're going to try to hit a 3. And for the most part, Philadelphia failed. They tried to match 3s. Darvin Ham saying here that really LA's got to stay out of that mindset that, yes, the Warriors will hit their 3s. That does not mean that we have to go down and shoot 3s as well. Here's Coach Ham talking about that.
You know, anytime you got Poole, Thompson, and Curry seeing shots go in, it's a nightmare. And so just not getting discouraged, not getting disappointed, but all the while remaining forceful on our offensive end, playing downhill, loving and living in the paint, putting a lot of pressure on them to guard in the paint. I think that the free throw line definitely helped us and our ability, again, to not just hold the ball, to set good hard screens, come off, swing the ball, drive downhill, secondary and third side drives. It went well for us in that department, and so we just got to figure out a way, you know, try to do what we can to guard them better and not allow them to get loose so early and often from the three-point line, but yet maintain our physicality and our force on offense.
9 o'clock tonight, ESPN will have Game 2 between the Lakers and the Warriors. Golden State is favored by 6 in Game 2. I would suspect Golden State has a win up their sleeve tonight. I think we saw this last night with like Philadelphia and Boston. Now, Philadelphia looked excellent in Game 1, and then they bring back Embiid, and you're thinking, wow, they can go up 2-0. It's not how the NBA works, man. It's a tough sport to predict. It's almost like baseball and this night-to-night stuff. And whether it's fair or not, you kind of look at it, and the Lakers and the Sixers, both teams are happy with the split. They have no problem with the split. And I think Golden State playing in front of the home fans with the idea that if they go on the road to LA, it's probably not going to end up looking good. Golden State's got to get this win. A lot more pressure on them tonight. Think they get the win. I think they take it back to LA, tied up at a game apiece. And we'll see. Does Golden State change what they do? No, they're going to jack up 3s. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, that's what they do. Jordan Poole, they're going to jack up 3s. So that's going to maintain. They got to get to the free throw line more than 6 times. You saw the graphic down there below Darvin Ham, 5 of 6 from the line. So that probably changes. And we'll see. I mean, you got to have dominating efforts from Anthony Davis. He was great. He was like stellar. He had one of his best playoff games of his career the other night against the Warriors. So we'll see if he can follow that up. 9 o'clock tonight, put me down for a Warriors victory. Now let's go to the world of hockey for item number 4 of what will matter tonight. The Panthers, the Florida Panthers, they're kind of doing the Lakers thing. Everybody thought the Panthers were, just a minor speed bump in round 1 against Boston. Lo and behold, they force a 7th game. Lo and behold, they get an OT winner on the road in Boston. Big upset there for the Panthers. Then they open up the second series by upsetting the Toronto Maple Leafs. Matthew Tkachuk was huge in Game 1 for the Panthers, had 3 assists in that game, and in general was just kind of a major pest. And that is one thing Tkachuk does oh so well. He's kind of like a lighter version of a Draymond Green. He doesn't stomp on people with his hockey blades. because he might cut him up. But he is a guy who likes to play till the whistle and then after the whistle. Had a huge night the other evening, and after the game, he talked about being the underdog and trying to go up 2-0 on the road in Toronto.
It's a little bit of a different mindset for sure when you're the 8 seed versus the 1 seed or whatever we were. So, but yeah, now there's 8 teams, and I mean, in my opinion, out of all the teams that are left, the Leafs have had the best year, up until this point. So it wouldn't shock me if they're favorited, just like Boston was. And, it's at the end of the day, everything's back to zero now.
If you're going to watch this game tonight, it's on TNT, 7 o'clock Eastern, the start. Matthew Tkachuk's worth watching, and see if we get a lot of Tkachuk v. Jake McCabe. McCabe's a defenseman for the Maple Leafs, and there is the suspicion that he will be assigned Matthew Tkachuk. So that'll be a good one-on-one, I think. I mentioned guys playing to the whistle and after the whistle. The beauty, I've said this a couple of times, the absolute beauty of the playoffs is there is no break from each other. The anger, the animosity just builds and builds and builds. And tonight, I think we start to see that build. Tkachuk and the Panthers got the first blow-in on the road at Toronto. And we know the history of the Maple Leafs in the playoffs. And maybe to an extent, they slayed a portion of those demons last week with the victory over Tampa. But the demons are still there. They're still lurking. They can readily emerge. Panthers got a big game 1 victory. Beyond the McCabe versus Tkachuk thing, Sergei Bobrovsky in net for the Panthers. He looked really good in game 1. I would not count on that in game 2. He's not that sort of goaltender. And against the firepower that the Maple Leafs bring, I think they'd be my pick tonight. Odds tonight, Toronto's minus 190. That's a fairly significant money line favorite. Plus 160 for the Florida Panthers. 7 o'clock tonight over on TNT. Finally, our 5th moment that matters, will matter, is actually a moment going on literally right now. Let me check I think we're through the first round for Rory McIlroy. Got the Wells Fargo Championship taking place down in Charlotte. Let me pull up the board here because McIlroy was through 14 earlier. I think he's almost done with his 18 round. He's not in the top 5 right now, but he shot pretty good. I bring up Rory McIlroy as something that matters because Rory comes into this tournament in Charlotte, North Carolina as a big favorite. We'll get to that in a moment. But also there's a little bit of controversy, or at least news with Rory McIlroy. If you don't follow the PGA, the whole Live PGA thing, this new league backed by the Saudis, and people have left the PGA, and it's kind of like this renegade league. A lot of big names went to that renegade league. Rory McIlroy's not one of them. He stayed in the PGA. He is seen as kind of a golden child now in the PGA. A big name, a guy who had massive money offers to go to that new and very young golf league. He didn't do it. Didn't fall for it. But Rory still got a little bit of trouble because he had a bad. This tournament in Charlotte is the first time we've seen McIlroy since the Masters. Now he didn't even make the cut at the Masters. It's one of your big names. He's the number 3 golfer right now in the PGA Tour. So good golfer didn't make the cut. The very next week they had, I think it was the RBC Heritage. Rory McIlroy removed himself from that tournament. Did not get approval though. Rory McIlroy lost out on a $3 million bonus because he skipped out on that RBC event. Now, he said it was for like a mental break, after the Masters and kind of disaster. So he skipped it. He would have gotten a $3 million player impact program bonus. What this is kind of the PGA's way of keeping those best golfers from jumping to the Live golf tour. What it is the top 10 golfers get big bonuses for showing up at events, PGA events, so that they're allowed to skip 1, but they cannot skip 2 or more without a reason. They got to go to the commissioner and get approval. He didn't, so he lost out on $3 million. Well, he is at Quail Hollow this week, and he is the favorite. It's kind of astounding. He's plus 360 to win this puppy. Everybody else is plus 1,000 or lower. And that's because of his history. I think he's won at this course 3 times. Rory McIlroy's first ever PGA win was in Charlotte, North Carolina. So a little bit of attention on him. And we're in this, this gray zone, I guess you would call it. The PGA has been the place to be. There was no other place to go for like 100 years. If you're a top golfer, you play on the PGA Tour. Last 18 months, that's changed. So you got a lot of big names going to the LIV, and, is the golf better? Most people say not. I'm not a big golf guy, but most people say, whatever. A lot of money, but not really better golf. PGA is still the big game. Masters ratings were great. Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods, they're still hanging out here. They're still good golfers. But it's interesting now we've got this bonus, and already a guy, Rory McIlroy, skipped out on $3 million. Maybe it's not all about the money. I don't know. Maybe he truly needed a mental health break. I will tell you one thing. That is a very expensive mental health break. I'm not even getting into the doctor bills that he probably had during that break. But he's back this weekend. First time since the disappointing Masters. We'll see how McIlroy does go. Those are the 5 things that will matter for tonight. When we return here on BSN, it is time for us to get into some 1989 cellophane. That's what they call this stuff. Cellophane. Like if I just heard this one morning, I'm sleeping, I'm dead asleep, and I heard this, I'd go, cellophane, cellophane. Like the only thing that makes this sound is cellophane. I don't think they do cards in cellophane anymore. 1989 Donruss will be ripping that pack open next, right here on the Better Sports Network.
The Las Vegas Raiders have traded up to 35, and they give up the 38th overall pick. In addition, a 5th-round pick goes to Indianapolis as the Colts trade down. The pick is in. And, Coop, your top 2 tight ends, best tight ends available, are now off the board as Michael Mayer is going to be the Darren Waller replacement in Las Vegas, catching balls from Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe somebody else in the future. But Michael Mayer is off the board. The Raiders have traded up, and I always look at this, too, from like dynasty fantasy football standpoint. I always like the guys that are traded up for. Michael Mayer gets traded up for as he is off the board now at pick 35. He goes to the Raiders. How does he fit in this system? Not only with Jimmy Garoppolo, but also Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, some significant pass catchers there, including Hunter Renfrow now.
Eric, I love that you pointed that out because that's the part of the draft that people forget when they're doing their analysis. They think about the draft capital. They think about the landing spot. They forget the draft narrative, right? This proves to us that the Raiders, at the very least, had Michael Mayer as high as Sam Laporta or maybe even higher because they're looking around and saying, all right, that guy's gone. We have to get this guy right now. And this guy probably is a better fit for what Josh McDaniel wants to do. He's used to Rob Gronkowski. He's used to Hunter Henry, these two-way tight ends that can block and run routes down the seam. Sam Laporta is not going to do that. He's only 240 pounds. This guy is your prototypical real-life tight end. That's why a lot of people were saying he's the best real tight end in the draft. Clearly, pass catching is at a premium. That's why Dalton Kincaid and Sam Laporta went first. But this guy's going to fit really well into that scheme. My question is, when does he become fantasy relevant? Because the vast majority of tight ends that are fantasy relevant are top 2 targets on their team with Devontae Adams there and Jacoby Myers there
that's not happening.
And Hunter Renfrow there. I mean, when does it happen, Moose? How long do we have to wait?
Yeah, forever. It might be a while. I mean, when you look at it. But I do think he's a great fit.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-Pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome you back in. Kyle Elfrink with you, producer Heather Klein. We have reached the moment on this edition of the 5-Pack where we rip packs, we tear packs, we investigate packs. Today we are handling some 1989 Donruss. Again, this is a 3-pack. I chopped off the first end of this pack a couple of weeks ago, so we're up to number 2. You know, we heard that Emperor Death March music coming back or whatever on this May the 4th be with you. It sounded like it was a challenge for me to open this pack. No, it's easy. It's easy for me to open this pack. So let's get rolling with it. 1989 Donruss. Now, I think there are 15 cards per square. 3 squares, 45 cards. Now, back in the day, you notice this big white circle here. It allowed the seller to pretty well put whatever price they wanted. I want to say these 3-packs, maybe like $1.25, maybe $1.50 for 3 packs, 45 cards. Little did we know we were wasting our money. Because 45 cards times half a cent a piece, you still weren't making. But you could get a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. You could get a Randy Johnson rookie card. So maybe, oh maybe, coming up here, we'll get some of that. We do not start with that, though. We start with Joe Price. Now, I said earlier, because I was looking at the top of my cellophane, that Joe Price, look at this guy. I mean, does that not just scream 1980s left-handed reliever? I mean, it looks like he's going to struggle to hit 85 on the radar gun there. That is not a pitching motion that screams, I'm coming in with 98 in movement, right? Somehow, some way, because I looked this up, I promised you I'd look this up. Joe Price started in 1980 and played 11 years in baseball. This guy, Joe Price, 11 years. And I can't tell you a thing about Joe Price. He does have career highlights, though, according to Donruss. Let's see what his number 1 career highlight is. He won Game 5 of the 87 NLCS against the Cardinals with 5 innings of 1 hit scoreless relief. I mean, pretty good. Pretty good highlight. Had 10 strikeouts in a game against the Dodgers in 84. Pretty good highlight. There you go. That's it for Joe Price. That's all I got. Not a great way to start. I don't know if we're improving. Let's go with a right-handed reliever. I better show you his name. Jeff Robinson of the Pirates. If nothing else, this is a reminder. Back in 1989, we were in the era of leg lines on the uniform bottoms. Does anybody wear leg lines on their uniform bottoms? It's kind of like the stirrups. See Joe Price with the stirrups. You'll see a few baseball players nowadays with the stirrups. But I'm trying to think of a team that still has the leg lines going, like the Pirates and the Giants did back in the late 80s. Hey, Randy, are you ready? Of course I am, because I'm Randy ready. Sounds like a bad comic book hero. Randy ready. Ready for anything. He had to be ready for anything. He was mostly a platoon player. Randy ready. Just happy to be in the big leagues, it looks like there, right? I'm just happy to be here. Team MVP. So this would have been 1989. This has been coming off the 88 season. Osborne Earl Smith, team MVP for the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm trying to think here. It appears, okay, no, these were a separate card. Because the back is like you would expect from a typical Ozzie Smith card, with all the stats, so on and so forth. But this is an insert in effect. You can see at the top, what is that, BC 14. So this was not the regular Ozzie Smith card from 89 Donruss. Ozzie Smith, he was the team MVP. 88 was not a good year for the Cardinals. 87, they made it to the World Series, made it to Game 7 against Minnesota. 88, there was a running gag throughout the 80s. Like every even-numbered year, the Cardinals sucked. On odd years, they were pretty good. 88 was an even-numbered year. Ozzie Smith was the team MVP with a 270 average, 3 homers, 51 RBIs. Did have 80 runs scored. It was not a good year for the Birds, but he was the MVP and, of course, future Hall of Famer. Another St. Louis Cardinal to follow, Danny Cox. I've mentioned Danny Cox before. This is his second appearance. And check out the handlebar on Danny Cox. That's sharp looking. Another thing with the Cardinals, and I have to believe these are spring training photos, because back in spring training, the Cardinals would go with the no button V-neck. Just the pullover, man. Just the pullover, like a t-shirt. Of course, it was rough as sandpaper, but still, just the pullover, no buttons. Didn't have time to button. It's spring training, man. We don't have to waste time buttoning. Juan Augusto of the Houston Astros, mainly a reliever, I believe. Yeah, throwing 50. He threw 92 innings. 1988 with the Astros, 75 appearances, 92 innings. So a lot of work out of the bullpen. 4 saves, got 10 wins working out of relief. Would have been a nice fantasy effort getting 10 wins from your bullpen. Man, what is it with a bunch of no-namers? Dan Petrie. Look at that. You see in the background of Dan Petrie's photo? And again, check out the uniform bottoms. We got piping. We got more piping. So the Angels were in it just like the Giants and the Pirates. But check out the back there. You can already see the center fielder retreating because he knows when Dan Petrie delivers this pitch, it's going to end up at the base of the wall, if not over the wall. So in the background there, check it out. Center fielder with his back turned towards the plate. He knows what's going to happen to this Dan Petrie pitch. I mean, Dan Petrie, now remember, folks, late 80s. Like to even be a decent pitcher, your ERA better be like 3.3 in the late 80s. Dan Petrie in 86, 4.66. In 87, 5.61. In 88, 4.38. Dan Petrie was a bad pitcher then. He's a bad pitcher now. Sorry, Dan. Here is our first Diamond Kings. Talked about this before. Donruss was always pretty famous for their Diamond Kings. Johnny Ray gets the Diamond King love. Let's read up on Johnny Ray, shall we? Johnny Ray, even leads with Johnny Ray. Johnny Ray made the transition to the American League by putting together perhaps the best season, or his best season as a major leaguer, long overshadowed in the senior circuit. Ray made his first All-Star team last season, played second base for 7 years with the Pirates. But when California obtained him in the final month of the 87 season, Ray was mashing the ball. California moved Ray back to second when Mark McLemore went down. Ray was probably California's MVP last season, and he'll be valuable to the Angels for a few more years. Well, let's see. Let's pull up Robbie Ray. Let's see if the Diamond Kings, or Johnny Ray. Did I say Robbie Ray? Johnny Ray. Man, I might have been saying, I got to give Johnny Ray some respect. I think it was saying Robbie Ray, not the injured Mariners pitcher. Johnny Ray. Well, they said, let's see, last sentence on this Diamond Kings card, it says, Ray was probably the Angels MVP last year, and he'll be valuable to the Angels for a few more years. Let's see. Well, in 1989, pretty good. He hit 290, 52 runs. He played 134 games. So that was 1 year. They hit that. Did not make the All-Star game. 1990 was his final year with the Angels and in baseball. So, incorrect. Diamond Kings script writer. He did not prove valuable for a few more years. Had one more year that was decent. Last year, I guess he got hurt, retired, never to be seen again. 10-year career. Somehow, Jeff Price lasted longer than Johnny Ray. I don't know how. DH for the Brewers, Joey Meyer. Remember, the Brewers were back in the American League. More piping on the bottoms. I guess that's how everybody pretty well did it. Here's another DH, AL only, Larry Sheets. Really did nothing but DH from time to time. Man, this is a boring set. I apologize. Mike Henneman, closer for the Tigers. Now, at this point, he was just starting to be the closer. He had 22 saves for the Tigers in 1988. He had a few good years, 89, 90, 91, where Mike Henneman was probably one of the top 10 relievers in baseball. Kind of had a run of 30 save seasons. You'll notice a lot of these Donruss cards are spring training photos. Here's another one, Franklin Stubbs. I think we had him earlier in the week. Dodgers perennial pinch hitter. You can catch this guy on MLB Network. I believe he's still with them. Al Leiter, whose son is now in the Texas Rangers organization. I think it's Jack Leiter trying to make a run. Jack Leiter was a high-end draft pick. Al Leiter, at this point, was only 2 years into his major league career. Check out his real name. Aloy Leiter. Julio Franco. God love you, Julio Franco. Julio Franco still playing baseball well into his 40s. Great stuff here. He still had like another 15 years to go after this. We got Kurt Young, lefty of the A's, and we'll close it down with Cecil Espy, fifth outfielder type with the Rangers. 89 Donruss. About as fun as I would have guessed. That'll do it for the 5-pack today. We'll catch you tomorrow at 12 Eastern.